Hello and welcome to Business Incorporated. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwagu. Happy holidays. Today on the show, final trading week of 2020 kicks off with most global markets open for business after the Christmas holiday. Oil trims losses, gold gains after Trump signs coronavirus aid bill. And South African businesses brace up for another possible lockdown as country becomes the first on the continent to register more than 1 million COVID-19 cases. We'll start off with the intraday market numbers as most markets across the globe have resumed trading today after the Christmas holiday as the final trading week in 2020 kicks off. Here on the African continent, the Johannesburg Stock Market Index was in the red at intraday, down 0.59%. Here in Nigeria, the market is still closed for the holiday. EGX30 in Egypt was looking upbeat at intraday, up 0.77%. Kenya closed positive last Thursday. And the markets in the Middle East are also open today. At intraday, it was more of red arrows, except for the market in Abu Dhabi, which was up 0.20%. Dubai's financial market was down 0.04%. Elsewhere in the region, Qatar was down 0.05%, while Saudi Arabia was down 0.04%. In Europe, markets rose at the start of the last trading week of 2020 as traders reacted to Brexit developments and President Donald Trump signing a $900 billion COVID-19 relief bill into law. Ashutosh Pandey is reporting this week from Frankfurt Stock Exchange. Hello, Ashutosh. Good to see you, and I hope you had a great holiday. Well, Europe has kicked off COVID-19 vaccination drive. How has the mass vaccination effort been progressing so far?
Well, hello, Chimi. Thanks a lot for having me. Yes, the vaccination program is actually going on quite smooth. There's been a robust strategy in place across Europe, and the first batch of vaccines have been delivered, and the vaccination has started since Saturday. And here in Germany itself, the priority group is, of course, the elderly. So the vaccines are being delivered to care homes where they are being administered to the older people there. And there'll be people above the age of 100 who've received one of the first vaccines in Germany. So that's one of the priority age groups. And the other is, of course, the frontline medical staff. They are also being vaccinated on a priority basis across Europe. It was Slovakia which started, and Slovakia, Hungary, Germany, where all three of them started on Saturday itself. The others then followed suit, and on Sunday it was very much across the European Union where this BioNTech-Pfizer vaccine was being administered. There was a minor blip, though, where in Bavaria in Germany, where the vaccinations were delayed. That's because the vaccines were found to be at a higher temperature than what they normally should be at. And this was always going to be a problem, given that the BioNTech and Pfizer vaccine needs to be stored at minus 70 degrees. So probably there was some problem in the cold chain, and that's where the vaccines were found at 15 degrees Celsius. So that delayed the vaccination a tad bit, but otherwise it's been pretty smooth.
And in another development, U.S. President Donald Trump has finally signed a $900 billion coronavirus stimulus package. That must have surely come as a relief.
Certainly, and it has in fact cheered the markets as well. They've been waiting for the stimulus package for ages now, ages. Negotiations have been going on. The figures have been changed from 2 trillion, 2.3 trillion, and all sorts of numbers have been thrown at us. But finally, yes, the stimulus has been signed by President, and this after he actually panned the package for not giving more to the individuals in the U.S. He wanted $2,000 per individual, and here it was, and the current deal only gives $600. So this was one of the doubts, but it couldn't have come at a better time, the stimulus package. We've seen how the recovery in the U.S. is losing steam. Consumer spending came in lower than expected in November, and there were signs of nervousness among investors and traders, and now with this package, it seems that at least there would be any paucity of funds as far as giving any sort of a thrust to this recovery is concerned.
And another issue out there is Brexit. How are the markets digesting the details of the deal?
Oh, well, Brexit is also a major contributor to why the markets, at least in Germany, are at a record high. The behind me DAX is trading at a record high. And that's a lot to do with Brexit. The trade deal, not the best of deals, but at least a deal that prevents chaos at the borders, prevents tariff-free kind of agreement. So a quota-free, tariff-free, zero tariff agreement. So all that is a definite positive, and investors and traders do have now more clarity as to how the divorce is finally going to take place. Earlier, they did not have any clarity on which shares they should invest in, which companies would suffer because of a unruly divorce. And here, at least they know that which sectors are going to benefit and which are not going to benefit that much. So that clarity is definitely helping. But a big drawback is, of course, the financial services, which haven't been dealt with in this deal, and that's a major component of the UK's relationship with the European Union, and that's one of the things that the two sides will have to sit and find a solution to.
And 31st December is the D-Day, so let's just hope that all the I's and the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted. Thank you, Ashutosh. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
And it's a bank holiday in the UK, so markets are closed. But Juliana will be talking to us from home. Hello, Juliana. Compliments of the season. Merry Christmas. I missed you, by the way.
I missed you too, Jermaine. Nice to talk to you. Merry Christmas to you and everybody.
Thank you. So tell me, how was Christmas for you with the lockdown and the new strain of COVID-19?
Going to tell you, pretty boring. As you said, London and so much of England, I believe about 40% of England at the moment is in tier 4 restrictions, which unfortunately meant that for about 16 million people, you couldn't spend Christmas with your extended family. So you had to stay self-isolated in a bubble. This obviously had knock-on consequences. I was speaking to Bissy this morning about the lack of people on the streets out shopping. You know, here in the UK, forget Black Friday. It's all about the Boxing Day sales. And it's such a shame that as the retail sector has really been crippled under COVID-19, that they just couldn't get back that last minute change before the new year. I think a big conversation, especially around the new COVID variant here in the UK, is about these numbers. As so far, the London Ambulance Service have described Boxing Day as the busiest day that they've had in history. I believe at the moment we have about 33,000 people in hospital due to COVID-19 symptoms, and that is more than we had in hospital in the peak of the first wave in April. So there are major concerns about how COVID-19 is going to cripple the UK in the new year, even though just a couple of weeks ago we were celebrating that Pfizer-BioNTech vaccination and the inoculation of the country. COVID-19 definitely has a grip. And of course, as we all know, across the world, it doesn't see Christmas or New Year.
What a shame. And unfortunately, you couldn't get the girls out to celebrate Christmas out there. Well, I'm sure things will be all right eventually. Let's talk about Brexit. The deal was clinched before Christmas, and MPs will vote on the deal on Wednesday. Michael Gove says there will be bumpy moments for UK businesses and travelers as they get to grips with new EU rules. Are you guys ready?
Gosh, well, we've been waiting 4.5 years, but are we ready? I would probably say no. No would be the answer for the majority of people. And even though our populist Prime Minister here, Boris Johnson, made that surprise Christmas Eve trade deal ready, you know, businesses only have about 4 days to make sure that they are customs compliant before these new measures kick in on Friday. One of the main issues is this new document, this new treaty, is about 1,225 pages long. It hasn't been published. So a lot of businesses are really just listening to the media, listening to observers, trying to get as much information as you can. As you said, the Duchy of Lancaster, Michael Gove, who's a senior minister here in charge of the Brexit process, he's been doing the media rounds this morning, basically saying it is going to be bumpy and businesses should, you know, try their best to be compliant by the new year. But for many, it's just not good enough. But there is a glimmer of hope. At least there will be no tariffs and barriers when it comes to trade. The EU member states just about an hour ago gave the deal the go-ahead. We're not expecting the European Parliament to do that until February. And as you said, on Wednesday, it's expected to get a speedy transition through the House of Commons. Though I've got to say, there are still lots of critics about this Brexit deal, particularly the Labour opposition party. But because we literally have no time, it's not going to get the scrutiny that it really does deserve, especially considering those who have looked at the document still do believe that over the next 15 years, this Brexit deal means that British GDP will be lower by between 5 and 7%. And that typically affects people on the lower end of society in less privileged jobs and less privileged roles. But we'll have to just see how Brexit turns out over the next couple of days. Something tells me we'll still be speaking about this, Chimezie, in 2021.
Absolutely. All right, Juliana, let's talk about something else. Did you ever get to watch Game of Thrones? It's so sad to hear Lin Key, the producer, is dead. Lin was believed to have a net worth of around 6.8 billion yuan. What is the discussion around this where you are?
Well, I've got to say, first of all, this is absolutely sad news. 9 years old. I think Li Qiang was worth almost £1 billion and had given so much to Chinese production and production really around the world for games. I personally have never watched Game of Thrones. I typically don't watch much TV besides the news. I'm that boring. But, you know, Games of Thrones, you'd have to be half asleep to not know just how much of an impact this has had on popular culture. And Li Qiang wasn't actually the producer of the Game of Thrones series that we all know and love. It was actually the Game of Thrones, I believe Winter is Coming, which is a popular game. I think what's really quite sad about this tragic death is that not only did he die on Christmas Day, but apparently, according to the Hollywood Reporter and those who are following the story, he was poisoned. He was poisoned by one of his colleagues, allegedly. I believe that authorities in the region have actually got a suspect. There was some toing and throwing among the executive board members of their team. And sadly, such a young man, you know, just at the brink of giving so much to society, his life has been cut short. So a very, very sad a moment in time for Game of Thrones lovers and for the friends and family of Li Qiang.
Yeah, so sad. May his soul rest in peace. All right, thanks, Juliana. Enjoy the rest of the day. And stocks in Asia were mixed this Monday as the final trading week of 2020 kicked off. Shares of Chinese tech giant Alibaba in Hong Kong were in the spotlight once again on Monday after Chinese regulators ordered Alibaba affiliates Ant Group to rectify its businesses. In Japan, the Nikkei 225 gained 0.74%, while the Topix Index gained 0.5%. Mainland Chinese stocks were muted on the day. The Shanghai Composite was largely unchanged at 3,397. The Shenzhen Component gained 0.193%. Markets in Australia and New Zealand are closed today for a holiday. And in the U.S., stock futures rose slightly in early morning trade ahead of the final trading week of 2020. Our futures on the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 123 points. S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq 100 futures are also traded in mildly positive territory. President Donald Trump signed a $900 billion COVID-19 relief bill into law, averting a government shutdown and extending unemployment benefits to millions of Americans. Profit-taking could ramp up in the final week of the year, which has so far seen surprisingly strong returns. The S&P 500 has gained 14.6% year to date, while the Dow has climbed 5.8%. The Nasdaq has soared 42.7% this year as investors favored high-growth technology gains during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. All right, let's look at the global oil market as oil pared some of its losses from earlier in early trade today after U.S. President Donald Trump signed a $2.3 trillion coronavirus aid and spending package, but lingering worries about near-term demand weighed on market sentiment. Brent crude futures were down 25 cents to $51.04 a barrel, having fallen as much as 1.5%. And U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures slipped 19 cents to $48.04 a barrel. And in metals market, gold prices jumped 1% as investors shared news that U.S. President Donald Trump signed into law a long-awaited pandemic aid bill with a weaker dollar lending for the sports. Spot gold was up 1% at $1,894 per ounce after hitting a one-week high of $1,900 earlier in the day. U.S. gold futures gained 0.9% to $1,899. And South Africa becomes the first country on the continent to register more than 1 million COVID-19 cases. How is that playing out for businesses? That will be next. South Africa has become the first country on the continent to register more than 1 million COVID-19 cases. It comes just days after authorities confirmed that a new, faster-spreading coronavirus variant had been detected. And as it is, more lockdown restrictions loom. Few days to Christmas, the president announced some restrictions. Public beaches were closed, alcohol sales were limited to Monday to Thursday. Well, still in Christmas mood, let's see how things are playing out there as residents mark this year's Christmas holiday. Trinity Nkube is an economic analyst and joins us now. Hello, Trinity. Good afternoon to you. So how was Christmas for you with a new strain of virus being reported in your country?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me once again. Christmas was great under the circumstances. For me, we did the most sensible thing of staying safe and having a lot of great food and not going outside as many people are still doing. So it was great under the circumstances, but my heart goes to those who lost their loved ones and those who still battle, and obviously not too happy about the people who do not take these restrictions seriously.
Now, a few days before Christmas, the president announced some new restrictions, and with the number of cases still rising, another lockdown looms. Are businesses prepared for this? How much understanding do businesses have towards, in terms of positioning their businesses to be resilient in the face of the threat?
I think you used the right word there, resilience. We have had great challenges this year, and a lot of businesses now have an understanding of the impact of these lockdowns. So when we look at it, we're starting to see an encouraging, move towards innovating and looking at different ways of distributing and marketing. A lot of businesses are going online, but again, we have to realize that not all businesses are able to do this online way of doing things. So there are a lot of challenges, but as you have noticed in history, a lot of businesses do tend to innovate when they're faced with such challenges that we're having. So it's not business as usual. We have to find different ways of doing business.
Now, South African economy had been projected to decline by at least 7.2% this year. With this new strain of virus now, where does this leave this projection? And what is the hope of recovery in 2021?
I think this year has really exposed us as economic analysts. It's very difficult to forecast anything these days. It's somewhere like every new day comes with a different set of circumstances. So when I look at it, I think just what we just said in the previous question, it's not business as usual. We just simply have to transform how we've been doing business. This view that government has to look after people with a paternalistic view is really being checked. Everybody needs to put something, contribute something that goes for every business, for every person to come and contribute in the economy. Because the government alone, we have seen, simply cannot do it by themselves. So we're looking at really starting over, transforming, making sure that we have a lot of people. We have a great human capital that can come forth and contribute to the economy, through entrepreneurship, small businesses, and idea-generated businesses, so we can move the economy in a new trajectory. We simply cannot do business as we have been doing for the past 10 to 20 years.
Well, we have just a few days to the end of 2020, and we all look forward to a better 2021. Trinity Nkobe, thank you for your time, as always.
Thank you for having me.
And after winning the 2019-2020 World Oil Competition, Algerian olive farmers look for solutions to save this year's harvest, which they say has been impacted by the coronavirus pandemic and increasingly unstable weather. According to them, the lockdown and curfew imposed to battle the COVID-19 outbreak kept many at home and away from the fields where they tend to the trees.
In the city of Tizi Ouzou, an olive farmer said less rain and snow meant less irrigation, adding that a lockdown and curfew imposed to battle the COVID-19 outbreak kept many at home and away from the fields where they tend to the trees. The national production of olives reached approximately 10.3 million quintals during the 2019-2020 season, against the 8.6 million quintals in the previous year. A 65% increase according to Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Abdelhamid Hamdani.
Usually there are more olives because there is rain and snow and because olives need this. But unfortunately this year, there aren't many olives because of the lack of water and because the olive trees have not been trimmed.
While olive trees generally do not produce the same year on year, factors such as weather conditions and poor upkeep also contributed to the fall in production in 2020. At the start of the coronavirus pandemic, the Algerian government imposed an intercity travel ban and a curfew on citizens across the North African nation.
This year, we have a decrease in production, a little less than half of what we had last year. Last year, we had a record production, but this year, we forecast around 7 million litres compared to 19 million litres last year.
In the city of Boumediès, extra virgin oil comes from the trees in the center-west of the country. It has won several international awards and exports to Europe.
This year we've had bad production in Algeria. Harvest decreased by 40% like all countries in the world. This is caused by global warming as well as COVID-19.
Earlier this month, Hamdani stressed the ministry's plan to reinforce exports of agricultural products, especially olive oil, according to Algeria's state news agency.
And with that, we wrap up today's edition of the program. Thank you for watching. I'm Chimize Obi Iwagu.